been editing my book and trying really hard to focus on dialogue, and I never realized before that my characters mutter constantly, and it is so bad. It's a bad way to hold a conversation, and it's bad writing. So today, let's talk about dialogue tags. What is a dialogue tag? They're writing you put around a piece of dialogue to indicate who's talking. That's it. Dialogue tags are not complicated, but people like to overcomplicate them when they're no more complicated than a to from tag. Alright, think we have everything wrapped? Now we just gotta do the tags. And remember what's in each box. Do you remember? Dialogue tags can be used at the beginning, ending, or middle of dialogue. I tend to put mine almost exclusively at the end, and only insert dialogue tags in the middle if there's action that's breaking it up. But you don't necessarily need to put dialogue tags even there. If Dennis is speaking and also doing the action, no need for dialogue tags. But if Dennis is speaking and Jim is the one doing the action you're describing, it's best to add the tags so the reader doesn't get confused on who said or did what. You only really want to use dialogue tags to indicate who's talking. If you're having a back and forth between two characters, you only need 2 dialogue tags to indicate who's talking. Then you can let the dialogue do the rest. You can insert more dialogue tags if the back and forth goes on for a while to help recenter the reader, or if another character enters the discussion. So let's say you're having this discussion. I'd only really add dialogue tags in these places where there's a break in the back and forth. So that's a rule of thumb on how to use dialogue tags, but that's just one area where people tend to overcomplicate something that's so simple. The next complication goes back to what I said at the beginning with mumbling. When I was a young, bright-eyed writer, I made a list of all the synonyms for said, asked, and explained. I thought I would sound so cool never having to use the same synonym on the same page, but now I realize that's stupid. My reader should not have to break out a thesaurus to realize one of my characters is speaking in a stage whisper. Elaborate, enunciate, mutter, whisper, even explain can become bad words if they're overused. In the same way, you don't need to put dialogue tags if you're having a back and forth between two characters. You also don't need to go overboard in how you describe their speaking. If you have a couple of characters cowering under a table, you don't need to put that they're whispering in every tag. You should definitely establish that they're whispering, but the reader should be able to infer that they're not exactly talking loud for the rest of the time they're hiding. Alright. Does her name have 1 or 2 L's in it? I hope it has 1. It's not gonna fit if it has 2. So what do you replace the whispers and murmurs and bellows with? Said. I know there's a lot of debate over said, and my word is not law, and said can definitely be as overused as enunciate. But it's a good word. Said is a beautiful word. It's an invisible word that a lot of its synonyms aren't. You can read said 1,000 times, and unless it feels misplaced, like you don't establish the whispering and go straight into said, then your reader will not notice it. They will, however, notice when a character enunciates something, and that's not good. Sentence tags aren't part of the story. They're not there for characterization or plot or world building. They are practical necessities of consuming a story that you don't want your reader focusing on. That breaks immersion, and it makes it a lot harder for your reader to absorb the parts of your story that you do want them to notice. Hi! Oh yeah, the big one! It's for your whole family, so I just put your family name on the tag. What do you mean it ended with an E and not a Y? Did you change your last name? Did your new husband change his last name? my initial problem with said, and a lot of people's problem, is that they confuse repetition with consistency. And consistency is key to writing good dialogue tags. Repetition would be writing like, "Hush now, Dennis shushed." We don't need to show Dennis shushing someone. We can infer that from the dialogue. It's better to say, "Shush now," Dennis said. Or if that seems bulky in the scene, but you haven't established that it's Dennis talking, you can put actions around the dialogue. Dennis walked over and sat next to the bed. Shush now. That worked without being repetitive. Now, as for consistency, that's where said comes in, as well as placement of tags. I said that I primarily put my tags at the end of the sentence. This is not a hard and fast rule. It's most common for sentence tags, and it will make them less noticeable. But again, they can go at the beginning or middle of the tag. Just use said consistently and don't do something like this. Flipping around the sentence tags this much in a scene will break immersion, as much as a character enunciating. Keep your tags consistent unless there is a reason to break them up. Again, largely because of action. And that's all I can really think of at the moment for sentence tags. You have to use them, but you don't have to be complicated about them.
What is tagging?